Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks bringing you your weekly Bitcoin analysis for the week of Monday, June 1st, 2026. I'll start with this chart. This is a big picture, goes back almost 10 years, actually. We've had a sequence of events closing above a 5-year channel top that occurred in November of 24, ultimately commencing with the full swing, this 21 high minus the 22 low. You add that back to the 21 high, and you've got this sort of state of balance that occurs. I, at the time, was not expecting the sell-off that occurred following the testing of this area, but we did fall back to this channel top, and when we closed below it decisively back in January, in this 88,515, we also, at the very same time, the very same week, closed below this, I think, more significant trend-defining channel bottom at 94,953. This may, looking back, have been the indication of a good high for the rest of the year. Actually, it's that's kind of difficult. Let's see here. As I say that, the high of the year is 97,938. So we could see that by the end of the year. But that may well be it. Now, let's take a look at the 94,953. This channel bottom is sellable resistance. If tested, can contain quarterly highs. And I'm going to move on to the next chart before I continue stammering my way through the video here. So in the process of closing below this 3-year channel bottom back in February, January, 94,953, we almost tested an even more significant channel structure that spans not 3 years, but goes really back to this 2017 high as its point of origin. So that's like an 8.5, 9-year channel bottom at 62,417. 62,417, or this formation, in my opinion, is our base of support through the rest of the year and really through the rest of the decade. That's not saying much. We're already in 26, but for the next few years, we could bottom out here and continue higher, even taking out this highs in the 122,000 area. So that is what's at play, perhaps, with 62,417, a base of long-term support. We came close to testing it back in February. We could rebound into the 90,000, 94,000, 100,000 region, depending on where this structure is at the time. But upward retracement to this structure should be considered sell opportunities that could play out through the rest of the year. We're halfway through the year now, just about, and I don't see this 94,953 for at least a few months. And if it were to be tested in August, September, by that point in time, you could say, yes, through the rest of the year, we could fall away again. That is really kind of the big picture in a nutshell. Let's zoom in just a little bit, and I'll show you. We've got this old area. It acted as a pretty good pivot point. Initially we broke below it, and this was back in February. It held highs. In March, we fell away. I'm talking 73,791 to 74,412. We closed above it back in April. It got some degree of a pop to the upside. Now we're back at it. So all the while, there has been this structure that I can show you here, this resistance at 82,570. And while we pushed through it a couple of weeks in a row, back in early May, we did not close above it on a weekly basis. And I've been mentioning that were we to close above 82,570 or this formation, that should be the final shoe to drop on continued gains into the 94,953 area. This could be within 3 to 5 weeks, could take the better part of 2 months, depending on volatility. Until then, we have eased back. And in fact, this channel resistance has channel support that I can show here at 72,709, and we are right there right now. So this coincides pretty well with this 73,791, 74,412 region. 72,901 is lower than that by a degree, and if we were to close this week below 72,901, I think we've got a good June high, and over the next 3 to 5 weeks, could take a little longer with reduced volatility, but I think it's likely within 3 to 5 weeks of closing below 72,901 that Bitcoin should ease back into the lower 60s again, 62,417, once again able to contain selling not only through the rest of the year, but even perhaps through the rest of the decade. Let's take a look at the consequences that if we were to close below 62,417 in the coming weeks, then we've got a good high I'm going to say not only for the year, but really this high in the 122,000 area could be the high that we see for some years to come. No longer in reach on a near to midterm basis, like by the end of the year, but rather we should then continue easing south, I think, into the mid to upper 10,000 area. 15,559 and 19,285, I think, would be in play possibly by the end of the year if we were to close in the coming weeks below 62,417. Until then, this long-term channel bottom able to contain selling for the rest of the year. If you're long Bitcoin and wondering whether you should get out or when you might get out, and I'm talking to those of you who have invested in it, you've had it for many months, maybe several years, I think closing below 62,417 is at least a sign to lighten up on that position and take some profits or some losses, whatever the case may be, because I do think that this market will continue south as we move through the rest of the year. Until then, if you're looking for a place to buy Bitcoin and you're just not sure where to buy it, I'll give you 2 price points. Long term, if you're given the opportunity, 62,417. And near to midterm, if given the opportunity, a settlement above 82,570 should launch us into the mid 90,000 and climbing area within a month or two. And this will be a real trouble spot, I think, as we continue into later year in terms of sustaining any sort of bullish momentum. I'm going to leave it at that for this week's Bitcoin analysis. You have a great week.